Hi, welcome to episode 45 of the American Tributaries podcast, where to break out of the bubbles we've all been living in, we use modern technology to explore the various currents of people in our great country, kind of like a 21st century Lewis and Clark journey. I'm your host, Michael Whitten, here in Brooklyn, New York, and thank you for joining me in this exploration of America. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by RaGina Scott Saunders, who lives on Johns Island in South Carolina and owns the remarkable Destiny Community Café in North Charleston. It's a pay-what-you-can restaurant and serving up some pretty special cuisine. RaGina, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you doing? And could you share a bit of your story?
Oh, hey, I'm doing great. I'm RaGina Saunders, Scott Saunders from James Island. I live Johns Island, but near Johns Island, but I'm from
Oh,
James Island.
sorry.
It's close, it's right next to each other. But yeah, my story is I'm a Gullah Geechee girl, and born and raised right here in Charleston, South Carolina, on James Island, and I learned to cook, Gullah Geechee cuisine from my grandma and the community, and I just keeping the traditions going on with the outreach ministry that we do, as well as for catering for a lot of the weddings, receptions, family reunions that people call for, and they want the traditional cuisine. And I enjoy it. I'm passing it on to my grandbabies now. They're 2 and 3, my first grandbabies.
Oh,
And
wow.
we're enjoying it, farm to table.
Yeah. Um, could you talk a little bit more about, I guess, like what, because I guess at least up in New York, I'm not so wired into the food scene that I was familiar with the term, and I haven't really ever seen like is the proper terminology Gullah or Gullah Geechee?
It's Gullah
Gullah.
Geechee. And some people just say Gullah, but Gullah Geechee is the proper term.
Okay. I
And
haven't seen any restaurants that are Gullah Geechee in New York City. So could you, I guess, just go a little bit more into what Gullah Geechee cuisine is?
yeah, pretty much it's based off our culture and language. My ancestors, they were enslaved here in Charleston, South Carolina. And because most of them came from different tribes in Africa, they had to form a way of communicating instead of trying to speak so many languages. So they created a language called Gullah Geechee. And it's a blending of some of the tribal language with a little bit of the European language. And that's how they communicated. We have our own culture because a lot of us, we when we got here, our ancestors had to live off a lot of the things from the land to create cuisine, and some seeds they were able to bring over, and our most popular was rice, which is the main reason why America brought a lot of our ancestors over, is to excuse me
That's
is
right.
to grow is to grow rice,
Mhm.
and which ended up calling Carolina gold, because rice ended up being currency, and it was in the weight. Excuse me, y'all. I apologize. It was in the weight of it was in the weight of gold. Like they did trade with rice like they did with gold. So Carolina gold is still alive. When you come here, you'll see that people still refer to the rice as Carolina gold, the crops and some of the original seeds. So of course, rice is one of our main popular dishes that we make, and as well as in Africa. One of the main ones that we do is called red rice here, which is a kind of like a cousin of jollof rice. Is what they prepare in Africa, West and South and East Africa. So that's how our cuisine kind of developed as well, and the technique of preparing the meals.
Wow. And when you were growing up, did you help your grandmother as a child, or did you have to like be a certain age before you could start learning the secrets of the cuisine?
Well, it's yeah, you have to move your way up. But we all started with a lot of the vegetables, as green beans and okra, just getting those things prepared. So we all started with prep. And as a
Mhm.
little girl, grandma would just let us get us a whole big bushel of whatever the season was of vegetable, and we would start cleaning or picking or they call it snapping green beans or shucking corn. So we would do these different things until we made our way up to see over the counter and be able to do more.
And what's like the is there? I mean, is that like if you're gonna have a is there a traditional like kind of a Gullah Geechee like kind of feast or like what's the what are there holidays in the culture?
Yeah, we have a few different holidays that we celebrate for Gullah Geechee. And of course, Black History Month is coming up. So we do a Gullah Geechee Black History, which we share a lot of the culture, the art, the cuisine, the language, the music, just some of everything that makes our culture such a wonderful, loving gathering. We love to gather, especially outdoors and have festivals. We do oh gosh, we're on the sea. We're on the sea islands. So Gullah Geechee is mostly covers the low country and the sea islands. So we do a lot of fish and shrimp and crab. We have a thing called crab cracks, in
Mm.
which we do a long table and everybody just gather and we do one big. That's one of our another techniques we do is everything is one pot cooking. So we put the crab in there and sometimes we can throw sausage in there and corn and peppers and everybody gathers around the table and we put it all on the table and everybody just get what you want and open your crab and eat and just fellowship. And it's a nice way to, for community, to create community.
I'm getting very hungry here. Are there particular like I guess like spices that are used with the Gullah cuisine or
Yeah, well, Africa, a lot of things have a little bit of heat. So,
mm, mm,
yeah, we use
sure.
a lot of different peppers, sweet peppers as well as hot peppers, and a lot of, herbs and garlic that we use in our cooking techniques. We flavor with a lot of that. Um, and what else is my grandma's favorite? Oh, gosh. There's so many. Another just cuisine that we use or another pot we use is called okra soup, and okra is popular in Africa as well. And it's so, so healthy. I said, I'm going to write a poem one day and apologize to okra. Because if I knew how healthy and how nutritious okra was growing up, I would have ate more okra.
Really?
Yes, it has such a list of health benefits, from helping to cure cancer to, I mean, so many health benefits with okra. And some people, it's a, acquired cuisine, so it's kind of sticky when you prepare it. And but that's where you get the most benefits. So we use a lot of okra. We do fried okra, or we do an okra soup pot that's filled with a lot of different vegetables. Um, and it's tomato based. We can do one with meat or without meat. So yeah, our culture, because we didn't always, you know, for Gullah Geechee, because on like plantations, they didn't always give us our ancestors the best of meats. So we prepared what we had. And a lot of what we had was just vegetables that grew out of the ground. So a lot of our dishes are vegetarian based. But then we have some dishes that I know a lot of the college kids, when they come to visit Charleston and they ask me to cook, they'll want to try pig's feet, or they want to try chicken feet, and they want to try chitlins, which is I don't even want to say it out loud because but
You can say it. Yeah.
it's so good. It's like a
What's
delicatessen
what's
of our.
chitlin? Can you say? Is there
It's the
a nice word?
it's the intestines of the
Okay. Yeah.
of the
All right.
pig, but it's the way how we prepare it. It is so
uh,
super delicious.
yeah. No,
But
I
yeah,
love tripe, so I'm open to.
okay.
Yeah, we can get down. We can. I can. Hey, when I was in Italy, and this is my all time favorite meal was an offal stew called finanziera, which has like brain and the coxcomb from the rooster and testicles, and it's got stuff that you don't find at Key Food, or at Whole Foods usually. But it was so good, and one of the things that it really kind of gave me insight into was how, like, this was in Barolo, which is an area famous for like really expensive wines. But what I realized is this is an area where like all the farmers were giving away all the good cuts of meat, and they were left with just this. Like, this is like the rejects of the rejects, and they were making some like, transcendent meals there. So, whatever you're describing sounds really interesting, and I want to learn more.
I think every culture has that Indiana Jones
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
prepared dish that's like you're eating what?
yeah.
But again, like you say, it's a preparation and how you clean it and prepare it the right way, and it's so delicious. We also do oxtail, which I found out is like a gourmet dish in Europe as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we get folks that'll come to Charleston in their yachts and catch a cab and end up over to one of us and say, "Can I get some oxtail?" So we'll make some
Mm,
oxtail, and actually sometimes we'll get it, and it's the actual whole tail when you buy it, and you
mm,
have to get it butchered down. And so yeah, some of the cuisines that we do in our dishes, but the number one is rice dishes, and
mm,
I can do over 100 different rice. We call it perlos,
mm.
and perlos is basically with our Gullah Geechee technique of cooking a one pot dish. Everything is marinated and cooked all evenly in one pot.
Mm. Wow. Um, um, what was I going to ask? Well, I guess first I'll just like, do you pair wine or with your food?
Oh yeah,
Okay, all right, yeah,
yeah we
no,
do.
there
Yeah,
could be a whole
we're
book about pairing with wines with
oh
Gullah Geechee food.
oh yeah, we have fun with wine pairing. My grandma used to make hers from scratch and sit it in her special bottles and let it
Mm,
ferment over time. So even cooking with wine. So
mm,
yeah, we have a good time. And with Charleston, we got a lot of distilleries and breweries coming up now. So we're working on getting our own Gullah Geechee label on some.
mm.
Um, but yeah, we have a good time. We're a nice culture that likes to gather and celebrate and have a good time.
Yeah. Um, and I guess like so the Gullah Geechee culture like really kind of is. Am I correct in understanding that it starts like up in North Carolina and stretches down to Florida?
Yeah, it goes all the way
Is that
down to
right?
South Florida. Yep, all the sea areas. Yes,
Mhm.
yeah. So we
And if I'm recalling correctly, like, was it that was the reason that this whole culture was able to kind of like, I guess, develop such, I guess, complexity is because like during the summers the plantation owners and their families would kind of leave, so there was more freedom to do stuff like this for the like enslaved folks who were still left behind, or am I misremembering?
yeah, they had certain I think was it cholera or one of the diseases that was going uh, that was certain times of the year that a lot of the plantation owners did leave, and some of the folks that had were left behind that were enslaved got to stay. And for some, I think it was I can't remember. Don't quote me wrong. It was some reason why Africans weren't really prevalent to the disease, so they were able to survive during those seasons. And but yeah, so there was a little bit more freedom, but I still wouldn't call it per se
No, no,
freedom.
yeah, no, yeah, yeah, no, no, of course. But I guess so then, but like Gullah Geechee culture doesn't extend into like Virginia or into like Tennessee or Alabama or Mississippi. I mean, it's unique to just the southeast Atlantic coastal area, correct?
Yeah, and I know they just had came out with a lot of data research and said that we have migrated inland a lot. Our ancestors did migrate inland, so you can go to different states and all the way in Texas. There's a group of Gullah Geechee people that still meet and have regular gatherings in Texas. Because a lot of Gullah folks left when the Indians left, so they went on. They have a trail that they went with a lot of the Indians when the Indians left. So but yeah, we were able to find Queen Quet is our queen of the Gullah Geechee Nation, and she also is represented, speaks with the UN And she's been able to travel the country and meet up and discover more of our culture that's still practicing the culture and still gathering in different parts of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So,
How
but
many
yeah,
do you have any rough sense as to like the number of people who can trace their roots back? Like, is there any kind of like rough estimate?
well, where I'm at in Charleston, South Carolina, a lot of the data and scientific research have shown that most, like every Black person, can trace their roots. I think 40% can trace their roots back right here in Charleston, South
Wow,
Carolina, because this was one
wow,
of the main gateways or where a lot of our ancestors were brought into um, America.
wow.
So about 40% can trace back here.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And has there been, I guess an evolution? Have there been things that have been added to the, I guess, the culture and the cuisine? I guess since slavery ended, like in the last like 150 years, are there new like kind of additions to the cuisine and to the culture and everything since?
Well, they have a rice. They call it hill rice, and I just got some of it from, I believe, I just got some of it, and that trail, the Indian Trail, the rice was brought here from Africa. It's an original seed, and so they have just discovered that. So there's a lot of new research and data on the seed of the hill rice, and that was brought because a lot of the women and the people when they were brought over, they knew they had to bring something of value maybe. So in their hair and their braids, they would hide seeds or and bring seeds here and replant certain seeds. So that's one of the rice that they saw seeds that was brought over and that they're discovering now. And it cooks up so delicious. It's so good.
Wow. Have
Hmm.
you gone back to Africa to see? I guess the older roots of the culture.
Not yet. I'm planning on going the first time this year. I'm working with a lot of the ambassadors and a lot of delegates from Liberia. Actually, we're helping to get books in Liberia. It's one of the countries that the government there never allowed them to have books or a library. So we're helping to ship books over there and get a library going for the first time. So I'm working with a lot of folks from there that come to Charleston because they want to know how they call us the people that disappeared. So when our ancestors were captured or brought over, a lot of the families there they never knew what happened. They just knew that the people disappeared. So we're going over and we're doing Zooms and podcasts like we're doing today with you to let them know what happened to us, what happened to the people that disappeared. They never knew. We became out a culture called Gullah Geechee and communicated. And so we're descendants of the people that wouldn't die.
Hmm. I mean, it sounds like the history is kind of. I mean, probably most histories are complicated, but like there's so much. I mean, pain and wrong in the history, but then also there's so much. I mean, I just like when you contemplate what people were experiencing, that ability to survive and thrive and preserve a culture is a real. I mean, it's a real testament to um, fortitude as well. It's
Oh,
really inspiring. I mean, I don't mean to make light of what they were going through, but to kind of still be here today with this kind of rich culture that I think is only people are going to learn more and more about is really pretty amazing.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We still embrace the drums and drum circles. Drums are a way of communicating as well. Um, and just even hearing the music and the drums when they play it here and when they play it in Africa, and it's it's a vibe that can just go through your whole body. And if you close your eyes, you can almost feel the the hopes and the dreams of our ancestors who wanted to be free and who wanted us all to come together and live in peace and help one another. You just can feel the prayers of them and
Yeah.
let them live through us.
Have you found that the Gullah Geechee culture has been kind of a bridge builder? Like, is it, or do you find like in where you are that it's mostly the Black community that's attracted to it, or is it kind of like everybody who's just, or is it more kind of broad reaching?
Oh, everybody. And definitely it starts in the homes, and definitely we want to share with our culture and the young people today who don't know where they came from and don't know the price that their ancestors paid. So definitely we want to share more, or we do share a lot more, but we embrace everybody from every culture because we're all connected. We're all connected, you know? So, we all want the same things. We all want peace. We all want love. We all want, you know, some sort of family or community. We all want the same things. So we're not that different, but we do have people from all walks of life. We have people from other countries that want to come, and they embrace and learn our history and want to taste and see and meet and hear us talk in our own dialect. So sometimes my Gullah Geechee come out real thick. So I'm
Oh yeah.
working on talking slow for you today because Gullah Geechee, when we talk Gullah, it's fast. And when I get to going, they be like, "Oh, say it again," because some of our we don't have the same alphabet as the European alphabet. So for the longest, my grandma would tell us that when I was a little girl, they would go to funerals and they would say they would need a whale. And when I got older, I was like, Grandma, I'm going to a funeral. I need that whale thing that you and the other older elders talk about. Y'all have to get and wear when you go to the funerals. So where's the whale? And Grandma, turns out Grandma was saying veil, but we don't have V's. We don't have V's in the alphabet. A lot of African languages don't have the letter V, so they were replacing it with a W. So,
Wonder how many other things you might have misunderstood growing up until you got that epiphany.
yes, yes. And when I go to business with my business friends, and I try not to say the word ASK because for some reason when I say it, it sounds like ASS.
Oh.
So, so some things that I'm learning that because it comes naturally, and I'm like, oh, I'm saying this. I need to translate it this way.
Did you grow up learning speaking the Gullah Geechee language, or was it something you learned as you got older?
No, when I was younger, but because it was taught that it was a bad way to speak. So as I got into school systems, they kind of didn't want us to speak in our dialect here. So we learned to not use it as much. But when we get around our families for food and Sunday dinners and things and crab cracks and stuff, we just get to talking. So it comes back. It comes back thicker sometimes on me, and when I get around the other Gullah Geechee folks, and we get to talking, and we just go. And my uncle, he's really thick with. He went on his when he went to work. They thought he was. They say, "What language are you speaking?" But so my uncle. But yeah, we have some 90-year-olds that's still here, and it's amazing because some of the 90 and 100-year-olds, they still cook and eat and live in the culture and live on the land, and they have no health challenges at all. So I tell everyone, I think it's a balance of how you eat and how you live. And we're not lazy people because a lot of our food is really heavy foods. But we're not lazy people. So you can't eat all this Gullah Geechee cooking and be lazy because you will get fat. But yeah, we eat a lot of heavy foods.
Mm. Is pigs a big part of your of the cuisine? Is that right? Like
Well,
pork?
mostly seafood because we live
Okay.
right near the water. So we season a lot of our dishes with a lot of seafood. Or if we do the pork, we do season with pork. It's just like, the salt balance. But
Okay.
but yeah, so we could either use the seafood or the pork, either or.
Hmm.
That's one of the gifts that we have. We get those mystery box of food, and we can prepare a dish,
Mhm. Yeah.
make it flavorful. But yeah.
S- So, how did the idea for the Destiny Community Cafe get started?
Destiny. Well, my family, like I said, we always been cooking and gathering and preparing meals. People ask us to do funerals and we call them repasts, which is the dinner you have after the funeral. So we were doing a lot of that for families and our community, just because people knew we liked to cook. And then I ended up opening up I rented a space to open up a venue, because here it didn't really have a lot of places for Black folks to rent to that we can gather and have our reunions and baby showers and still provide our own Gullah Geechee food. Because a lot of places here, venues, you have to use their menu and their cuisine. So we found a space and we rented the space, and we allow people to bring their cuisine or allow us or have us do the cuisine. And we could seat up to 200 people. So we did that for about, I think that was 2013, 14, sometime. So we did that. And then I started to see people in our dumpsters getting food and eating. It was kids, older folks, and, different race cultures. We just saw people in the dumpsters and in the trash in the mornings or at night. And I would just invite them in and tell them, come on, sit down, like at grandma's house. Like, my grandma had the house that everybody would go to, and she'd do the same thing. So we just started feeding folks. And then I went online and said, there's got to be a better way. And I found an organization was a network called One World Everybody Eats. And I saw that Jon Bon Jovi up in New York, he was doing a similar where anybody and everybody can come eat. And I'm like, this is just like our culture, because we welcome everybody to come and sit. And so I joined the association for the network, and I ended up meeting JBJ, Jon Bon Jovi, told
Wow.
him about Charleston and what we're doing down here. And so I just started feeding folks, pay what you can, whether you have money or not, you still can eat. And I specialize in our cuisine. And we already partnered with a lot of farmers here. So it was Farm to Table. And that was going on 8 years now ago. And community's been embracing us, and we partnered with shelters and schools and daycares and nursing homes and low income apartments. And so the cafe, we moved out of the cafe last December. Somebody bought the whole plaza, and the community blessed us with 2 food trucks. So now we go out in food trucks in the community, and we just cook up a storm, and everybody enjoys it. And of course, that mac and cheese and the perlo rices is the top dishes everybody want.
Hmm.
So yeah, we just enjoy it, and creating community.
Yeah. And how? So you've been doing the truck since the beginning of the year?
Yeah, it's been a year
Okay.
now. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
but
been a
you
year.
wow. Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Did it change a lot? I guess the cooking, having the facility, versus just cooking in the truck, or do you go cooking someplace else and put it on the truck to
Yeah,
deliver?
we do both. Mostly we have a kitchen that we have. One of our friends who used to volunteer with us at the cafe, he opened a cafe, and he's Mexican, and he opened a Mexican cuisine cafe. And right before we moved out, so he was like, come on over, mi casa, su casa. So we cook out of his kitchen, put it on the truck, and we go. And we're doing like thousands of people sometimes in a week. And but it's beautiful. Sometimes we put out tables so people can sit in front of the truck and just enjoy and talk. And it's beautiful. And even when we had like um, certain things happen in the community, that we had other folks that just didn't understand what was going on. I remember we had some elders in the community, and they got to sit at the table with some other folks of some white ladies and some black ladies got to sit at the community table, and they had questions about things that was going on in the community, and they were able to share and talk and get answers and take blinders off, and it, that's what it's about. getting
Yeah.
at the table, being able to open up and just talk and share and know that we're all the same.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful. It and I think to me like that's to me the food is such a connector either for the people at the table, but like as you're also doing like with the history, going backwards and then also going forward, passing those traditions on to the next generation. So it's a beautiful thing, and it's great that you've like harnessed that to also help a lot of people who are probably struggling. Do you have any I guess like stories of like people who've like come back to you to let you know how much they appreciate it, or how they had some kind of like real turnaround moment at one of your meals or something.
Oh yeah, yeah. One particular, this one guy, he was homeless and nobody really kind of talked to him. He used to have his hair spiked up into crazy little antennas. And we invited him in to come and eat one day. And he smelled really, really bad, the ones that they leave a trail of the scent when they walk. So he knew he smelled. So he would come like first thing in the mornings, like as soon as we opened the door, so he can eat before a lot of people came. And then he would sit in the corner and get his meal, and he wouldn't talk much, but he would eat, and then he would get the broom or whatever and just start sweeping out front. And so after a while, he started talking, and we got to know him a little. And we found his mom because he didn't have family here, and his mom was a couple of still in South Carolina, but a little further out in the rural area. And she was living in this like a nursing home kind of thing where she could have a visitor for a couple of days. So he was like, more than anything, I want to see my mom for Christmas. So we all chipped in, all the volunteers chipped in, got him a bus ticket in the barber shop in the plaza. They gave him a haircut, took him to the get a bath, a shower, cleaned him up. One of the churches gave him a bag of clothes, and he had a jacket that it was a mechanic, like a car mechanic guy jacket, and it said Eric. His name wasn't Eric, but it said Eric. And then he had some boots on, and some jeans. And at first he didn't want to get his hair cut, so we were trying to talk to him and show him pictures on our phone, like, look at Bruce Willis and look at all these cool celebrities and stuff. He was a blonde guy, and it was like showing him all the blonde people, like white people back cool. It was like, you get his haircut. So he was like, okay. So when he came back to the cafe from the barber and putting his clothes on, he had the little jacket on, and they gave him this cool spiky blonde hair, cool haircut, and shaved his beard in a cool shape. Nobody recognized him, and he came with his posture up high, walking in like John Wayne. And we were like, all right, and cheered him. And he was like, and we said his real name, and he was like, nah, call me Eric. And he would sit to the table and eat his meal, and he would have conversations with people at the table because he never talked to anybody before. And it was just a beautiful thing. He went to see his mom and came back, and he asked me, he said, Miss RaGina, can you adopt me? And I was like, so I don't know about adoption, but you're part of our family now. And so yeah, he was one, and then another. We had a family that used to come to eat. They were going through hard times living in a motel, and um, they came back one day in the U-Haul and parked the U-Haul right in front of the door and was like, Miss RaGina, we're moving into our home, and we just want to thank you for feeding us. And then another time we had this one lady, she would come on a regular. She was going through a horrible divorce, and her monies were tied up, but she had a job. Her money just was tied up. So she would come eat lunch with us on her lunch break really quick and then leave. And after it was done and over, she just came back and told us how grateful, and she had a house, and she had her visitations with her kid and everything. And she always referred people to us and bring people for lunch. Um, oh gosh, so many stories in 8 years. Another one, we had a lady that was 80 something years old, and she would get in her car, go pick the homeless people up from Tent City, bring them in her car for lunch. They would sit to the table and eat. And then she would go take them and bring another group.
Wow,
80 something years old. And so, yeah, we just all made family, and just so many folks over the years living in their car or on the streets, and some of them people didn't know, and sometimes they just didn't meet the requirements to get assistance. One of our volunteers, she stayed on the phone for like 3 hours with a homeless guy. Come to find out, because he was bipolar, schizophrenic, and didn't have all his medications. So she stayed on the phone for all those hours to get him all set up so he can get back regulated on his medication. And she just
Wow.
did that out of lunch, them just sitting there having lunch.
Yeah.
So just bringing back the kindness in people, I think that's mainly what I try to do, from watching my ancestors and grandma doing the same thing over the years. Just loving on folks and reminding folks, you know, lead by example, kind of, and being in that atmosphere where, most restaurants you probably couldn't sit in if you smelled that bad, or
Yeah.
most restaurants wouldn't even take you if you only had 25 cents. But we would. And I've had cancer patients come back and call me. One group of little kids, they would come after school and during the summer, and they was good manners. They would sit to the table. They weren't related. They were just all friends from the community, and they would sit there, and I would make dinner. It wasn't Happy Meals. It wasn't chicken nuggets and French fries. It was Gullah Geechee rice and beans, and they would sit there and eat and be grateful. And one day they fought over Brussels sprouts. I had some Brussels sprouts. And it was the last, it was like, can we have seconds? And I was like, okay, I got enough for maybe a one good scoop. And they were like, shared that one good scoop of Brussels sprouts. And then one day I had a call from a lady, and she said, I just want to thank you because um, two of the children that you've been feeding are my children, and I have like a high stage cancer. They said I'm not going to live, and I'm not going to live long, but you've been feeding my babies, and I just want to thank you for that. And she says she's going to fight despite what the doctors say about her life expectancy. She's going to stay and continue to fight so she can stay and see her kids grow just a little bit longer. So things like that, you never know who you're helping. You
Yeah.
never know who's going through.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, you can't judge a book by its cover. You don't know. I've had folks that I've even carried an extra pair of tennis shoes in my car, and stop at the bus stop and see somebody with no shoes on and giving them a pair of my shoes. And my volunteer has been doing the same thing. So it's beyond the walls of the cafes, in your daily walk, you know,
Yeah.
getting back to mankind, being considerate and kind.
I mean, it really sounds like, I mean, you're like a ray of sunshine, or a stopping place for people to catch their breath and kind of power through. And that's really like little miracles all over the place.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That sometimes I get the schools here, they'll send me some of the kids that they'll say is get in trouble a lot.
Mm,
And they'll say, oh, you're going to Miss Regina's kitchen.
mm.
And sometimes I get privileged kids too from private schools, and their uncle or aunt's like, I'm sending my niece down there to you.
Yeah.
And so one day we were in the kitchen, me and this group of, I don't know, I get a lot of boys sometimes. I don't know. They're taller than me at 14. But they like to eat. They like to
Yeah. Yeah,
eat.
watch out. Watch out. I have one boy who's 12 and he's already eating like a teenager, and keep the teenager boys out of there if you want to keep your inventory.
Oh, yes. They love Miss Regina. They love Miss Regina Kitchen. So I had a couple of them in there one day, and we were cooking in the cast iron skillet, and I was teaching them about the benefits of how much nutrient you can get out of eating out of cast iron. And they were about to use my spatula to stir the vegetables in there. And I said, no, you can't use the plastic spatula because it's going to melt. And that's for, mixing the the cornbread and everything. And I said, but they do make spatulas that don't melt in the pot, but we don't have any of those here. And then, like a few minutes later, a group of ladies from some church group came in, and they said they saw a flyer about us and the Gullah Geechee cooking that we do, and post it in the hospital on the bulletin board. And I think it was the sickle cell department, and they saw that we have a wish list and just paper towel, cleaning supplies, things like that. And they brought like all these like huge like bulk packages from like Sam's or Costco to us, and they just wanted to donate it. And it was like out of the blue, and we were like, thank you. So we were going through it with them, and in the midst of all the stuff, they had a packet that had these spatulas that don't melt or burn when you cook with it. And it wasn't on my list. So the boys were like, Miss Regina, look, when you cook. And I just, I was just so in awe of just how the miracles are happening. And we got miracle meals that we prepared from thanks to the donors and the farmers when they give us surplus. And just the fact that the young people can see that, faith and believing and speaking that things can manifest for good as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we have miracles at Destiny.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you so how do you get by as I mean, obviously you have to have a living because you need to live yourself, and the and institution, I guess, really has to kind of keep going. So do you have like fundraisers, or is like everything kind of donated? Like how are you able to keep this enterprise going so
Yeah.
successfully for so long?
Well, for the past 7+ years, I've been funding it myself through, good people like you and other folks that'll hire me to come and cater for them. And when I had the center, people were renting the center, so I was able to fund a lot of it myself. But thanks to the community, they were saving us on a lot of times too, when the donations would come at the right time. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we're funded by donations. I'm just now getting on payroll in our 8th year. So I will get paid now. you know, Hallelujah. So yeah, but donations, online donations that come in the middle of the night and in the midst of the mornings that people just decide there they find us, and they'll share, and every penny helps. We got $10 donors, $100 donors. We're working on getting grant money as well. So we got our first, it was like a pandemic reimbursement grant because we spent over 50,000 of our own money um, just to be able to help with relief during the pandemic. So they gave us a grant to reimburse us back. So that was a blessing, but we spent that right back into feeding people again.
Yeah.
And then we got the food trucks. So we have the 2 food trucks, and we've upgraded some of the equipment in there. So, but donations, 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 donations.
Yeah. What is there a website folks who are listening can go to if they want to donate?
hmm It's our website is destinycommunitycafe.com. And we have a really good link on there that says donate, is through a program that allows us to keep most all of the donation money, because some of them take a big percentage out of nonprofits that get donations. So we found this one company that they only do nonprofits, and we get to choose if we want to give 1% or 3%, and our donors can decide if they want to pay a percent towards the processing. So I know a lot of our donors, that was a big thing that they wanted to give, but they wanted to make sure that we not get all these fees and lose out on the donation.
Yeah. Wow. So how do people, do you let people know where your trucks are going, or is it just kind of an unpredictable route, or they have a schedule?
Well, because we're new and we're just getting the feel of things, we haven't designated a main spot yet. But right now, we've been going to like senior citizen apartments that are low income, and disabled folks live there too. And then we've been partnering with the city when they have things or outreaches that already have folks that are struggling. So when the outreach have a public event or something, we'll go with them, and because they'll already have the people that are needing, a healthy, nutritious meal that's filling. And sometimes we'll pack up, we'll give them extras so they can take home if they need extras.
Yeah.
But that's what we've been going so far. It's been a blessing. We just go where we're invited.
Yeah. Have you managed to get JBJ to come down during one of his concert tours?
I'm working on it. I'm working on it. I am working on it. I said, you don't even have to perform. You could just come and cook and hang out and have dinner with us in Charleston. So
Yeah.
I'm working on it. Yeah. Yeah, he's
That's
one of our favorites.
and
Yeah.
do you spend a lot of, is it mostly in like the North Charleston area that you're taking care of people?
Yeah, but we have in Charleston, we have a lot of rural areas that don't get a lot of services. So I've been partnering with outreaches that have been going into rural areas as well to help as well and serve. And like I said, if anything, I feel like when we come through to some of these communities, we can stir up hope and get neighbors back to where I remember when I was growing up, we could go next door and borrow sugar, bake a cake, cook the cake, cut the cake, take a slice back to the person that gave you the sugar in the first
Yeah.
place, so just stirring up people to get back to remembering their neighbor and their community, if
Yeah.
anything. Yeah.
I thought I read somewhere that you had a garden.
Yeah.
Was that
Yeah.
with the old facility, or you have one now?
We had a garden with the old facility, but we were
Okay.
able to get planters, and we took the garden and the planters to one is at the uh, Gullah Geechee Angel Network. They have a house in one of the rural areas for the community. So we took one there, and then we took another planter to this homeless shelter for men. And they have my basil and my sage growing like crazy.
Mhm. Wow. And was it, has it been difficult to kind of keep the garden growing, or do things grow pretty well and predictably?
It was that garden, either the soil or the love or just them singing or talking to whatever. It's been blessed. It's community garden. So, but yeah, we're hoping to start another one at another facility that the mayor of the city of Charleston, he's giving us a kitchen to use, a cafeteria downtown that's been sitting abandoned for many years. So we'll be moving in there in a couple of months, and it has room for us to do a raised garden.
Oh, wow. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you haven't been able to like get that you'd like to grow, or is like you pretty much have everything that you would need to have in your mind a satisfactory Gullah Geechee garden?
No, there's plenty of stuff I still want to grow, but the weather and the climate has been changing. So things that wasn't able to grow in Charleston is now able to grow here now. So we've been seeing all kind of stuff. I mean, avocado's been growing well. Of course, okra grows good here, and oh gosh, I would love to see if I can grow rice though. I just want to. There is a rice plantation. It's not in Charleston, no, but there is a rice, and there's some old rice plantations we can go visit here in Charleston that I found fascinating. Just seeing the technique and that is some serious. That is one of the hardest, most labor intense things to grow and harvest is rice.
Hmm.
And just seeing some of the old plantations here and what they had to do in stages to get rice to grow, it's horrible. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
my wife is Taiwanese, and I lived in Japan for like 3 years. And the first time we were in Bali, and the first time I saw like rice fields, it was absolutely amazing to me because it's something you know what rice looks like, but to actually see the vast fields and see what it looked like in nature was so, it was unexpectedly thrilling to see. Like, oh, this is what it looks like.
Hmm. And then another one that they're growing out on James Island where I grew up. There's an old plantation there that's now open to the public that you can tour. And they managed to get some of the original seeds of cotton. And like when you drive certain places around now and throughout Charleston or Bruford, you might see people growing cotton, but the cotton is really low. I mean, it doesn't even come up to maybe your ankle. I mean, it comes up to maybe your knees. But the original seed that our ancestors had to pick for cotton, the cotton grew as tall as you and I. So when I was thinking, it has the thorns and everything, when you out when cotton grows. So when I was imagining and thinking back to my ancestors picking cotton, I was thinking that the one that we see on the sides of the road in places that is low down to the ground, and they were bending over and they had to bend over and reach up high to pick cotton. So that was another labor and physically challenging to pick cotton that they that they had to weigh. And cotton is like feather weight.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so they were out there in fields growing picking cotton that's as tall as 5 feet tall and bending and picking. So they have a small area on James Island at McLeod Plantation that they got the original seed and is growing and it's about that tall now. So that was a blessing to go out there and see how how it was back then.
Yeah, I saw that when we were there over the summer. It was
The
pretty
cotton.
cool. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Um, what is is soul food something totally separate from Gullah Geechee cuisine? Does there overlap, or what's the relationship, if there is any, between the two?
Well, I think I think Gullah Geechee cooking is the roots of soul food. And then, because if you look at some of the soul food, that's mostly I think the plant based, mostly the vegetables and things. That's a lot of the cuisine is the roots that Gullah Geechee prepared.
Mm-hmm. But
Mhm.
okay, all right, that's
Such
interesting.
as
Okay,
the collard greens, yeah,
okay.
and that sweet potato,
Mm-hmm.
which because in Africa they didn't do sweet potato, they did yams, the actual yam, but because yam didn't really grow here, they used sweet potato to make dishes that were called for yams.
Mm-hmm.
So occasionally I can get my hands on some yams here, some African yams,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll make a traditional African yam dish, or I'll make some fufu.
Mm-hmm. What's fufu?
Fufu is like the starch that you would normally kind of eat with your vegetables or your soups and stews. And I don't know if you've seen it before, but it looks like I don't know, like almost look like a big ball of mashed potatoes,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
but it's kind of sticky. So you take a
Uh,
piece and you use it like kind of like a bread, and it sucks up whatever soups or stews. So you eat Africans, they eat a lot with hands,
mm-hmm.
fingers. So it sucks. So you use that and you suck up whatever soup or stew, pop it in your mouth, and it's so delicious. But it's made with pound yams.
uh,
They're
okay.
made with pound yams. So yeah, so a lot of fun dishes that you can eat
Yeah.
with your fingers.
Mm. Do you have any favorite like either like cookbooks or TV shows or anything, like for people who'd want to learn more about the Gullah Geechee, or like websites? For
Oh
me,
yeah,
this is selfishly I'm asking this question, but
yeah. I wish I had the name of one of the elders here. She's like in her 80s, almost 90s, and she just published a Gullah Geechee book. And
uh,
I'm gonna have to get you her name. So if I don't know if you can
mm,
write it down in the comments or put a
mm,
link at the end
mm,
with her name. But she just published like 5 months ago, within 5 months ago, a lot
mm.
of the Gullah recipes. I have a lot of favorites. Everybody knows here locally, Chef BJ Dennis.
Okay,
Uh,
yeah.
so he's like our Gullah Geechee cuisine king.
Yep. I follow him on Instagram.
Yeah, so yeah, those are my top ones right now. And but there's so many, like how they say, unsung chefs
Yeah.
that are locals here. that I love to get in the kitchen with. We just lost Martha Lou. She had Martha Lou's kitchen downtown Charleston for a very long time.
Mm.
And also, I didn't get to share, but my my I think it was my great uncle had a soul food kitchen here, and a lot
Wow.
of the chefs that ended up continuing on with Gullah Geechee cuisine came. They used to work with him. It was called the Ladson House, and then Martha Lou used to cook there, but she
Uh,
just passed away last year, I believe.
mm,
And she was almost, I think she was in her late 80s as well, going on 90s. But
mm,
she just passed away. But I loved being in the kitchen with her. She had this cutest little humble little place, and celebrities would come through Charleston and be in that little place
mm,
eating her food and hanging out with her. And she made the best fried shrimp. And I was like, Martha Lou, what's the key to this fried shrimp you make? And it was because she used the local shrimps. She didn't use the frozen shrimps. She didn't use the store bought shrimps. She used the local fresh shrimps. Had that nice sweet taste. And then she did have another in her batter that I can't tell you, but
mm.
but oh man, she made the best fried
Uh,
shrimps and shrimp and grits, and oh my. But yeah, she had some of the I think Pharrell was at her kitchen,
oh
and she
wow.
had, I think, I want to say Barbara Streisand. I mean, she had all the celebrities that would come, and it was like a little house, and she had
Uh,
all the original chairs, like Grandma House, and mismatched tablecloths and odd little plates and china, and then she would have little pictures on the wall of some people that came through and flyers, and it was just the best. So I think out of all of the actual restaurants that made it to still survive, that was Gullah Geechee, was Martha Lou's, and then
okay.
there's Bertha's Kitchen that's still up and running. The grand and the great grands, they're still cooking their mother's cuisine and recipes, and they're pretty popular here.
Wow.
Yeah, but just sitting in the kitchen watching food made with love, it's the best.
Yeah. Wow. Well, you make me very eager to get back down there. So I look forward to this is gonna be great. Well, we should probably wrap up.
Okay.
But before I finish, I wish we could go. I wish we could go on more, but I'm sure you have things to do. Um, but can I ask, like, what gives you hope at the end of the day?
What gives me hope at the end of the day is, I guess, just the testimonies of the people and my faith in God, and that mankind, you know, still out here sharing kindness. And that keeps me going. The testimonies more than anything, just seeing that we're effective, that just keeps me going. I had
Yeah.
a college kid at one of the colleges I spoke at. And she said, what makes you still want to get up in the morning and say, let me go and cook and help people? And what makes you still want to get out of bed and still do that? And I say, yeah, the hope to change the world, make it a better place. And I see it works. This works.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love conquers all.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's perfectly said. Well, thank you so much, RaGina, for making time to share an hour or so on the podcast. I really appreciate all your patience and the love that you emit clearly. So thank you.
Thank you
All right.
for all you do.
I think.
Thanks.
All right. And then thank you to all the listeners out there. May you go explore our country with curiosity, respect, compassion, and humility. All right. Take care, RaGina. We'll be talking soon, I'm sure.